Alright everybody, welcome back to another video. So today's video I'm going to be covering a topic that seems to be prevalent with these late model Ford trucks and other Ford vehicles. Basically, anytime you have any kind of ABS issue, your whole truck will go haywire, and I'll show you what I mean here in just one second. So go ahead, and you can see, looking at the instrument cluster, everything's okay. Put it in reverse, backup sensors, everything is working. If I start moving, to about 5 miles an hour. Service advance, track, hill start assist, not available. I've got an ABS light. Cruise control does not work. If I go to put it in reverse, it'll say check parking aid. It doesn't work. Parking aid does not work. And the list goes on. Also, I'm getting a service parking brake thing, even though it does work. So it's basically like as soon as I go over 5 miles an hour, the system flips out and I get a bunch of warnings on the screen. So there's a few things that can cause this in an F-150. I have a link in the description to my other video, or I've actually had this happen before, where my front left ABS sensor wire was torn. I was able to find that and fix the problem. It's usually a problem with the ABS system in some sort, or the wiring to the systems. So under the back of the rear of the truck, there are multiple harnesses. Sometimes water can get into those connectors and cause a similar issue. It's basically what's happening is, due to an ABS issue, it's causing a bunch of different modules in the truck to have communications faults with each other, which causes all of this stuff. So even though there's nothing wrong with the rear parking aid or the advanced track system, the module senses there's a problem. It can't communicate right, and it just sends everything into a frenzy. So I'm going to show you what the issue is on my truck, in hopes that it will help you diagnose and track down a similar problem on yours. All right, so to properly diagnose this, it's important to have a good scan tool. In this case, I'm using 4Scan. So I'm going to connect to the truck. You have to have a scan tool that can read advanced level codes. So it just gave me a service parking brake malfunction. Also, so I'm going to go ahead and get connected here, and we'll do a full code scan. And it may take longer if this is the first time connecting. So if I look at my DTCs, the ones that we are actually concerned with right now. So this first one, lost communication with grill shutter, that's been there, that's not our issue. So right here, PCM, you'll have a bunch of C0034 codes. It says invalid data received from ABS module. We're not worried about that. Same thing with parking aid module, same code. Invalid, this is from the restraint control module, which we're not really worried about that. These are all secondary to the problem. If we get down here to the ABS though, you can see, well, parking brake module right here and the power steering control module all have this network invalid data from ABS. But the one we're really concerned with is this ABS code here. You can see it is, in my case, a C0031. Yours could be a C0034, which is the passenger side front, or I think it's like 3738, the rears. But it's saying the 0031 is a left front wheel speed sensor. And the reason I say you have to have a advanced level code scanners, that's not all to the story. You can see there's a colon, and then it says 76, and then dash C8. So what this is saying is wrong. The 76 is wrong mounting position. So the 31 just means it's the front left wheel speed sensor. But it's the next part, the 76, that means wrong mounting positions. This is a weird one. So normally if you had like a short to ground or a open circuit or something like that, that means there's a break in the wiring, or the sensor's just bad. In this case, it's reading the sensor just fine, but it's saying wrong mounting position, which means it does not like the alignment of the sensor in the hole. Now the problem is nothing has changed. Like, I've not done anything to my truck since I replaced this sensor about 10,000 miles ago with a brand new Ford sensor, because like I said in the previous video, you know, it got caught on the tire and tore the wire because it was installed incorrectly. So if I show you here, to diagnose this, I went and I data logged a trip of, you know, when I hit 5 miles an hour. And if we watch it on, let's see. So right here, you can see this is where the light, ABS light comes on and everything blips out, where this line goes up. So I data logged the ABS warning lamp, and then these are the 4 wheel speed sensors. You can see right here, all 4 wheel speed sensors are reporting speed, and they're reporting the correct same speed, 6.2 miles per hour. You know, right, basically when that happened. So everything looks pretty consistent. If you see something like haywire, again, normally this would come with a different code, but I just wanted to see what was going on with that sensor. It looks perfect. So it's reading the wheel hub fine. So what is the issue? Well, these are basically like a reluctor. It's very complicated, unnecessarily complicated, I'm going to say. So if any little thing goes wrong, it's going to trigger the series of events. It's what gives these trucks such a bad name for electronics gremlins. So anyway, I'm going to show you what I found. Obviously the next step's to, you know, disassemble the front of the truck, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clear these codes out, because first step to getting rid of this is resetting these DTCs. And then we have to reset the ABS module. Because just doing this alone, they're going to come back. So what I do is I go through and I delete or reset the DTCs on all the different modules that were affected. And then the last thing to do is we're going to go here to the wrench, and I'm going to go to the ABS control module. I'm going to do a module reset. You do have to have, if you're using ForScan, you know, your advanced key. Please start ignition off. Click OK. Alright, it's going to say wait 10 seconds. Then turn ignition on. Alright, service procedure completed. Now if I go back here to the codes and I reset them again, they will actually all clear, except this one, which I had before. I'm not worried about that. They will all clear and they will not come back until I drive the truck again. So this is how I'm going to set it to work on it. That way it's fresh and there will be no problems when we start off. Alright, got the brake rotor, disc, and everything off. And obviously this is what we're concerned with. I even took the backing plate off. It's just 3 8mm bolts, just to make it a little easier to see what we're doing. So hopefully you can see here is where the sensor goes in. Just need to. You may want to do that by hand. If I knew I didn't just put a new sensor in here, I wouldn't have done that with the impact like that. Break this loose. And then, depending on how long it's been in there, that may be harder to get out. So the sensor itself, I mean, it looks fine. I see one issue already though. All right. See if I can illustrate this. So even though this is a approximately 15,000 mile old bearing and it's making a noise, if you can see down in the hole there, there is grease down in there on the wheel. If I turn it, it's kind of hard to see, but I think that's what's causing our problem. There should not be any grease in there. It can throw off the values of the sensor just because it's so sensitive. Now, I know a lot of you old timers will be like, wait a minute, there's supposed to be grease in there, or at least there was on my old whatever vehicle. There's not supposed to be grease in there on these F150s like this. There should be nothing on that sensor. And even just that can be enough to make the car think that this sensor is not positioned correctly. Or if you use maybe an aftermarket sensor, it can be really finicky. It's not down in there far enough or whatnot, okay? So I'm thinking that's our problem, like where it's good enough that it can read, obviously by our graph, but it's so sensitive that it's just not working quite right. Okay, so unfortunately the only way to fix this is to replace the whole hub. Once it's got that internal leak, it's basically leaking grease past a seal and getting on to those splines which turn in there. So right now obviously the four-wheel drive is locked, which doesn't matter. Really from this point there's just 4 bolts that need to come out on the back side, and this isn't a video on how to change a wheel hub. This dust cap comes off and there's a nut under here. Plenty of other videos, I'll even link one below, a good one, on how to actually, you know, do all the torquing and all that stuff, put a new wheel hub on. But I'm gonna go ahead and slap the new wheel hub on here, and for the sake of time for all of us who are just wanting to get to the conclusion, we'll see if that fixes the problem. All right, so I've got it all back together. Just will say, when you're installing the new wheel hub, do not remove the sensor that comes in it, even to look in there, because, you know, it's calibrated from the factory. So I went ahead and just reset all the codes one more time. Let's start the truck up here. How's the moment of truth here? Well, so far so good. Just really got to get up to about 37 miles an hour to really test it though. So that's what we're going to do, drive it. Alright, well so far so good. Those lights were coming on immediately. I've tried four-wheel drive. Everything works good. I've got none of those ABS codes coming back. Alright, so I've driven the truck for a couple of miles, went out, shut it off, shut it back, turned it back on. Everything seems to be fixed and working well. I mean, it makes sense that that's what the problem was, but it's just such a weird code. And if you look at that hub, literally it just had a little bit of grease inside of it, and that was enough to cause this issue. So the first thing I did was I replaced the sensor with a brand new Ford sensor, and that didn't fix it. Then I did some more digging, and hopefully this will help you if you have the same issue. I did throw kind of a cheaper TRQ hub on there, so I guess I'll see how long that lasts, but at least if this happens again in the future, I will know what the issue is. Alright, so the last thing, so look at this hub. This is the one that was the problem. CarQuest is the brand, just FYI. I'm sure this is not cheap. It has about 15,000 miles in under 3 years on it. And it looks okay. The truck was riding okay, but it failed internally and caused that issue. Garbage. Alright, hopefully the video was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Again, I'll leave a link in the description to a pretty good video on changing out the hub bearing assembly, just in case you have the same problem. It's really, like I said, kind of only applies to the fronts, because the rear sensors are a little bit different in the way they mount, but guess you could have the same code for the rear sensor, but there it is. Till next time, we'll see you later.